3, 2, 1, and we are live. I am live. Hi, folks. 5 of you already. This is a part. Hey, welcome everyone. I was trying to put some music on, but there's something haunting me today. I keep hearing something that sounds like a Turkish rhythm coming from somewhere. Maybe it's in my head. Maybe it's the animals in the attic again. I don't know what's happening, but I am losing it. It's fall, finally. Rich Mitch was here yesterday. I'm not sure he's with us today, but Luca is, Coquelicot is. Don't forget to let us know where you are logging in from, just to get a sense of the coverage. Dana is present as well. Hi, sweeties. Hi, nosies. Welcome to A Nose, the first and only channel dedicated entirely to the good stuff in perfumery, to the rare, to the exotic, whatever that means, to the long forgotten, to the not yet known items in perfumery. I am here to serve. My name is Dana, and if you're new, come say hi. Ashfaq from Dhaka, Bangladesh. You are the furthest one, and it's very late over there, and I'm really happy to see you. Sounding the depths, coming in from El Paso, Texas, and Gabriela, and Lucian, and Duplo Massette from Minnesota. Hi, folks. Today, we're talking about a cheapie. Yeah, me too. There. The owl is my spirit animal. Owls and goats and dark creatures with weird eyes. Today we're going to talk about a cheapie. And I realized, if you allow me, I can do a cheapie a month. And I call it a cheapie because this is what everybody does. But I have a very, very hard time calling cheapie or cheap something that a lot of effort has gone into. I think we've had this conversation before. As long as it took resources, may they be material resources or time or effort or creativity, if something a lot has gone into making a perfume or a fragrance, I have a very, very hard time calling it cheap. So I don't know. We need to find a better word for it, an alternative notion for something that is inexpensive, but it's very well composed and presents value of whatever kind it may be. It doesn't really matter. Maria, welcome. Liliana, welcome. So if you allow me, I would very much like to, from now on, once a month, once every 4 lives, to talk about something that I think is accessible, either by price or correct. Nothing is really cheap or for free. Something that can be easily had, owned, something that doesn't necessarily come with a lot of guilt, something that is good value for what you receive. I don't have a price point, but I think we're all in agreement when we see something and we realize we're comfortable paying that amount of money for that thing or going through that effort to obtain it. Today, like I said, we're going to talk about something that has been discontinued, but it's easy to find. If you're lucky enough, you might find it in TK Maxx, you might find it in TJ Maxx, you might find it in Metro. If you live in Europe, you might find it in the back of a perfumery or a pharmacy. I've heard stories. Lately, there's a lot of them on eBay where you can find this in 2 versions, the regular one and the intense one. It's not the same thing. They're 2 completely different smells, so please beware of that. And the fragrance I want to talk about today is going to an exchange today, only because it's similar to other things I have and because I haven't given it as much love as it deserves. With so many hundreds of bottles, it's kind of hard to keep it in rotation. And that is Absolu de Rochas. Now, Rochas is, hi, see, you can see me seeing myself in the camera. That's my screen over here. Absolu de Rochas comes from Rochas, a house that we've all known and liked for different reasons at different times for different executions of different things. Rochas has a very, very long standing in perfumery. It's a French house. I don't know why I'm losing my train of thought. It's a French house that gave us a lot of classics. Christy from Virginia, hi, and welcome. Today we're talking about a CHEAPIE. We're talking about a fantastic juice that somehow flew under the radar, even though the maker is very popular. Rochas is a house that everybody heard of. Rochas is a house that gave us Madame and Femme and Macassar, which is a genius construction. I was marketed for men, gave us Mousseline. It's been around forever. I think it was opened in 1925, so it has almost 100 years of history, and worked over the years with pretty much every perfumer who was somebody. For some reason, Rochas is not getting all the love it deserves, even though it created so many, gems over this past 100 years. But Sheldrake and Rudnitska and Filippo and Cavallier and Marcel Rochas, Almerac, all the big guys and gals worked for Rochas, and they have 60-something fragrances launched in about 100 years, which is not that much considering that nowadays houses launch with like a line of 16. I met some house of PT that is launching with 16 fragrances. In the head, it's just not feasible. This kind of volume does not necessarily guarantee quality in my book. In any case, Rochas had a nose for couture. Rochas has had a nose for business. They invented a lot of procedures and a lot of different technicalities. Me too. That's why I've been talking about shamelessness in perfumery. Rochas Men is amazing. It's that thing that looks like a obelisk, like a phallus, like a something that looks like a dick, basically. but it's I think it's very good. Byzance, Byzantine, Alchimie, Eau de Rochas, which tastes like lemon drops. Femme, like I said. Madame, Mystère, so many good ones. Moustache, Mousseline, Macassar, if we're going to the men's fragrances. So many good things coming from the house of Rochas. And this, I believe, is one of them. This is a little bit more contemporary, if you want, style-wise, even though it was made in 2002. It's more, it would be very, very easy to market today. Let's just put it that way. Just to show you the packaging, because yes, I do show packaging for those. Rochas Men, known as the butt plug. Yes, it is. I don't know how we end up talking about butt plugs and crap every time I have a video. But yes, you are absolutely right, sir. Actually, I think people like hearing this stuff. I saw Tomelise trying to talk about stuff that makes her sick, and it was really cute because she's so feminine and delicate, trying to talk about dirty stuff. It's funny. Cute. Rochas ABSOLU looks like this. The packaging is not, I don't know, it looks like the moon, looks like something spatial. Not very inspired necessarily. The insides are the color of my lipstick, apparently. It's a very luscious, a little bit orangey, very saturated, like fire engine red. And the bottle is what I actually like the most. It's very heavy. For those of you who care about these things, it's very stable. It doesn't, wobble at all. The lid is heavy and very minimalistic in a very contemporary kind of way. I could see this on packaging today, apart from this kind of set of curvatures. Everything else is pretty streamlined. It feels good. It sprays well. It's a very good quality bottle. I like it a lot. Now, let's talk about the smell a little bit. Absolu means absolute in a very meta type of direction. It's a French word. Dans les escoues, welcome. Let us know where you're logging in from. It's a very meta, very spiritual, tending to the absolute, means, going towards illumination, priming yourself for a different kind of dimension type of a thing. Maybe that's why the packaging has the moon, and it almost looks like the D-Day when the aliens come and pull you up. See this writing going up? It's very alien-esque kind of design, this red sparkling. It's very sci-fi a little bit. Romania, nice. This is built around Tolu. For those of you who don't know what Tolu is, there's a huge video talking about resins where I talk about resins to poor Sebastian on Sebastian's channel. Looking, feeling, smelling great. It's an hour-long video, but if you don't have time for that, just know that Tolu is a tree. It's called Myroxylon. It's in the same family, very closely related, like stepbrothers almost, with the Peru balsam tree. Both of them are producing a very fragrant sap, just like it happens with pretty much all the balsams and ambers and resins out there. I'm using amber as an alternative term for resin because it's starting to be. Everything that comes out of a plant as a thick, smelly sap that later on becomes hardened and can be distilled or hi, Brother Lucas, Poland is with us. Thank you. I sound like one too. You should hear me. Can you hear this? Like that? Can you hear this? Or is this a different? I believe. I don't know what's happening. I believe my video is picking up the voice from the computer microphone instead of this one. Anyway, keep going. So the Tolu balsam tree is a tree that grows in Central America and in South America. It's named after Tolu, with an accent on U sound, which is the name of an indigenous tribe in the Americas. Not sure if they are still in existence because, let's face it, the Spaniards kind of eradicated a lot of local indigenous populations. In any case, this tree is named for them. And it's to this day used in a lot of traditional medicine across the Americas, Central America, particularly El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and into the northern part of South America, Colombia, Bolivia, the mountainous areas, part of Venezuela, into Brazil, Chile, and so on. And Peru, of course. This tree is producing a very thick, dark sap, which, unlike the Peru balsam, which stays very thick but liquid, it's almost like a molasses. It's kind of like dripping very, very slowly, but it does drip. This one becomes a little bit brittle, almost like a wax. Think about trying to cut through soap or wax. So it does harden slightly, but it does become liquid, or slightly more liquid if you warm it up a little bit. It's been used in traditional medicine, like I said, for a bunch of different things, in particular in Colombia, Peru, and Venezuela. It's used for everything that has to do with skin. So rashes, if you have a rash on your skin, if you have an allergy, if you have a boo-boo, it's used as a remedy, but it's also causing rashes itself because it's so strong, it's so pungent, it has so many active ingredients, just like the Peru balsam, that it can cause a burn. It's used as a medicine for anything that has, also used as a medicine for anything that has to do with the breathing apparatus, cough, bronchitis. If you have swollen tonsils or airways, you can't breathe. If you're wheezing, if it's hard, if you have asthma, and for different kinds of cancers, I've always believed that we should look a little bit closer to traditional medicine for remedies that might be the saving of us all. But anyway, that is Tolu. It's a regular tree with, I'm not going to go into how it looks, doesn't really matter, but that's where the Tolu balsam comes from. The smell of the Tolu balsam is very balsamic, resiny, sweet, sweeter and creamier than the Peru balsam. It does have the beeswaxy, propolisy, medicinal kind of undertones, a little bit tannic, a little bit spicier than Peru, but less herby. It flows. It's a little bit smoother. It's like more expensive. It's not more expensive, but it smells a little bit smoother than the Peru balsam in its natural formation, and it can be distilled into an essential oil, or it can be steamed into an essential oil, which then can be used in perfumery. I believe people use it in tinctures as well, tincture format, but I don't know enough about the methods of extraction to talk about that. If any of you do, if any of you use it in any way, please let us know. But that's what I know of the Miraxolon Tolu tree. The color of the juice is amazing. Indeed, it's not much lighter. Initially it wasn't much lighter, but it does have some vanillic elements in it, which I believe react to time. They just settle and they get darker and darker. However, most of the Tolu and Peru applications are yellow to begin with. So I would guess that if we wait enough, and if they're in combination with sweeter and specifically vanillic elements, they do kind of like sit together, tighten up, and produce a more aged, oaky, if you want, type of color. This red juice is absolutely fantastic. Now let's go to formulations. This is an eau de parfum. It's been produced in 30, 50, 75 mils. You, like I said, might be able to find this on eBay or anywhere else. It's around $30, $40, which is a fantastic and very fair price. And you will see there's another variant called Absolu Intense. Pero balsam is now banned. You are joking. All right. This is why Ishfaq says that the pero balsam is now banned. This is why, particularly this is why it's worth supporting natural, not natural, but artisanal perfume makers, the ones who are not part of IFRA, the ones who haven't sold out yet. Nothing wrong with that. If it's money after, if money is what you're after, that's fine. If you want to be commercial, that's okay. But if you as a consumer or you as a perfumer want to maintain or still cater to the market of me and everybody else, I believe the future of perfumery stays, as always, in the artisanal executions, in the ones that are not confined, in the ones that are not sacrificing creativity for standards of safety that are artificially imposed and not statistically relevant. For as long as peanut oil is not necessarily regulated, although I know you can take allergens out of that too and all that, but for as long as other very, very highly allergenic elements are not regulated one bit by IFRA, IFRA doesn't have credibility for me. I don't believe that their main interest is to maintain quality standards in perfumery while maintaining safety standards in users. But that's a different conversation for some other times. Let's talk about the juice, because we are, oh my lordy lord, 22 minutes into this presentation, and some people are already getting annoyed. What does this smell like? This smells like a very, very creamy, orangey amber. Now, my mom is here. Cornelia, hi. This smells like a citrusy amber that is sweet and creamy. Interestingly enough, this has been presented by many reviewers in written reviews. I don't think I've only found one video review, but it's in Russian of it. That's why I chose to talk about it today. Many a review states, my English is getting really numb today, that this is a masculine fragrance. Now, it's been launched as a pour femme. The perceived harshness of it is beyond me, because maybe now I'm smelling a very settled, very aged, like I said, very compact, very blended version of it. Maybe it was different when it was launched. I don't know. I've only known it the way it is here. But many say it's a masculine fragrance. It does have potency, and it does have rough citrusy edges in the same manner of anything that includes bitter orange. Bigade would be. I don't know. You can't really blame them, as they rely on dermatologists who only see bad skins. This issue partly suffers from observation bias. From EC files, per balsam, balsamic oxylon, sensitizer, distilled oil is allowed. Okay. I've read some of the studies ordered and executed were used by IFRA to justify some of the decisions they made regarding reducing certain ingredients. And statistically, apart from the fact that the method was not holding any water in any research that would be deemed invalid, it was forced from the beginning. The control group was not there. The test group was not representative for who uses what they were trying to test for, and so on and so forth. And the results were not warranting any scalable reality. But that's just me, because I'm a sucker for statistics, because I care about my numbers, and so on and so forth. Let's leave that aside. This is... all right, it has a lot of orange. It has tangerine. To my nose, it almost goes towards kumquat. For those of you who don't know what kumquats are, they're very tiny citruses. Kumquats are amongst the oldest of citrus on earth. They have a very thin peel, and they're very fragrant, almost floral. Floral, not in the neroli way, but more in the white, almost like white, wet flowers, like a lily, for example, would be. They can be eaten with the peel. Actually, that's what they recommend. There's a lot of good stuff in the peel, and they're used for a lot of preserves and jams. Now, those preserved kumquats have a specific type of floralcy and honey-ish tones to them that remind me very much to what's in here. I don't know what it is exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's a combination of sweet orange, a little bit of bigarade. So think Seville oranges. Agnes from Rome, hi. Tangerine mandarin, kind of in the same, in the sweet, citrusy, but not very pungent, smelly agrumes. Then there's so that's right on top, and then disappears. It will show up again in the base. The evolution is not very sophisticated, it's not very complicated, it's rather linear, but it's beautiful from the beginning to the end, and it's very tasty and nice and easy to wear. For ambers today, this is so much more deep and rich and sophisticated and pricey, valuable than anything that I've smelled launched more recently. Also, it's more complicated than many of the sophisticated soli notes that I've smelled since Milan. So the top is very citrusy, in a marmalade-y, in a sweet and very creamy way. When I say creamy, think cream, like whipped cream, without it being very, very sweet. More like choux à la crème. Think about that one. Mr. Oz, hello and welcome. If you're new on the channel, please let everybody know where you're logging in from, so everybody can say hi. We're from all over the world. I think the furthest apart are me in California and Mr. Ashfaq, who's logging in from Bangladesh. We have people from all over Europe. So welcome. And Ananda from Gather Perfume. Greetings from the East Coast. Welcome, everyone. So top, like I said, is very citrusy in a very marmalade-y way, with a subtone of something very creamy. Creamy, not in the sandalwood woody way. Creamy, not in the coconut, almost tropical way, but almost like sagey and whipped cream, non-gourmandy way. It has a slight texture aspect that makes you think of something very fine, like like toothpaste. You know how smooth that texture is? That's kind of how this goes on. Abdel Sarkis from Puerto Rico, welcome. After this opening, which doesn't last too much, it's about, maybe 4, 5, 10 minutes max, depending on the weather. Today it's slightly crisp because it's autumn, finally, in the East Bay, San Francisco area. So it's sitting, like I said, very smoothly. Right under that, there's a layer of florals, which again makes me flabbergasted because a lot of written reviews to this mention a slightly masculine aspect to it. I don't know where it's coming from. Everything in this is very neutral, including the floral layer. What I smell is some neroli, and I know this sounds a lot of agrumi citrusy now, but it's not that entirely. Well blended, spiced up with a little bit of black pepper and some rose pepper to my nose. So there's that almost fruity aspect to it. There's lily. It's a very clear lily. And then a series of fat, wet flowers. When I say wet flowers, think lotus, think even tulip, and think cyclamen, which is very floral. It smells like color pink to my brain. I don't know if I have synesthesia. I wish I did. But in my brain, it goes to floral, crisp, fat, wet flower, as opposed to a galbanum, which is bitter and kind of dry, for example. There's also a little bit of rose in there. I don't know if they declare it, but there's a textural green rose that follows right after. And all of this sits, of course, on a bed of glorious, glorious, glorious balsams and resins, the creamiest and the sweetest of them all. And that is benzoin. Lots of benzoin. Lots and lots and lots of benzoin. If you want to hear more about benzoin or Tolu or any of these resins, again, go back to Sebastian Jara. I talked his head off for an hour. We did probably the most comprehensive resins and balsams nerdy video a couple of weeks ago. You can find it on Looking, Feeling, Smelling Great, or I think I have it on this channel under liked videos because I can't upload it myself. It's not my material, it's his, but it's my brain and my talking. So you can refer back to that. But this is full of benzoin. Benzoin is used many, many times and has been used in perfumery as a fixator. It fixates stuff, just like vetiver is, just like ambergris is. It makes things more stable. The molecules fuse and stay together rather than separate. It's the smell, so therefore the smell stays intact for longer. And usually, the more benzoin you have, the more compact the smell gets as the years pass. So instead of getting separated or the top notes disappearing, it kind of like gets more and more dense because maybe the alcohol evaporates, but everything else kind of scales down. So you have the same amount of smell in a smaller quantity of liquid, which means it's more intense. Tolu, of course, and again, to my nose, Tolu smells balsamic. I think we all have an idea of what that means. It smells unctuous. It smells slightly beeswaxy. It smells honey-esque, therefore creamy, very smooth, a little bit medicinal, not as much as the Peru balsam, but it does have that propolis kind of undertone to it. It smells like a little bit like chocolate, a little bit, I'd say body-ish, warm, like skin, if you want, not in the musk way, not in the armpit way, but it has some sort of warmth to it that is not vegetal. It kind of feels that way. It smells potent. It smells dark, and it smells together, if you want. There's a lot of Tolu in here. Now, there are not too many Tolu centered fragrances. I have the Ormonde and Tolu right here because everybody compares these two, and I would like to speak about both of them today. But apart from all of these, I smell a few other random things that I don't know where to put, and I want to talk about them. There's labdanum. Loads. Well, Tolu, labdanum, orris, sandalwood. Of course, they last forever on your skin. Why don't you share some instead of just like, oh yeah, sure. It's called Absolu de Rochas. It's one of those very obscure, I don't know if long forgotten. It only came out in 2002. But considering that Rochas is such a very, very popular house, it's very interesting to me that not more people know or talk about this. So we talked about the citrusy layer. We talked about the floral layer. I talked about the some of the instances, benzoin, there's Tolu balsam, there's a lot of labdanum, and that gives it a little bit of a zing, if you want, but it's not overpowering because labdanum can do that. It's sticky and tannic and almost bitter, burnt, smoky. Now, of all of that, it's only the smokiness that stays, and the compactness of this fragrance, I think, is in part due to the labdanum as well. I also feel a little bit of myrrh, sweet myrrh in particular. So Popinax, slight amount. I don't think they declare it. I also feel some woody notes. I think they talk about cedar. I don't get cedar necessarily. They're like kind of nondescript, and they have a very again creamy hardness to it. There might be a little bit of sandalwood. There might be a little bit of very tiny bit of rosewood. I don't know what's in there, but the woody notes are not sharp. They're not pregnant. They're not in your face. They're just enveloping and creamy and dense. So it's not light woods. It's not steam woods like you would find in Newbie, for example, but dense and pretty solid. That's why I keep saying it's all together. I've talked about the honey tones. I think it's due to a bunch of the ingredients in this. I feel tonka as well. Probably not a lot, but it does. The spiciness is that kind of bitter. It's so vanillic, it's bitter kind of a thing. There is a vanillic note. I'm sure they don't declare vanilla, but there is some vanilla in there, and it's not very confectionery. It's not very gourmand. This whole thing is sweet without being very gourmand. It's a little bit boozy. Not necessarily easy to recognize. It's not more particular than others, but it is very, very well done, very beautiful, and very easy to wear. And again, for what I've seen the latest launches for balsamics and ambers to be, this is layered way more than the newer releases. It's more complicated, even though it's very, very simple compared to what was launched in the 90s, in the 80s, definitely in the 70s and before. Yes, CHEAPIE. This is a stellar CHEAPIE, in my opinion. The only problem with it, and just to answer Dana's question above, it does not last long. For those of you who care about, just puffing and going for the whole day, you might need reapplication. But for the type of smell and for how cheap it is, yes, it is a cheapie. It's a $30 bottle, $40 bottle, not more than that, and relatively easy to find on eBay nowadays. Reapplication should not be an issue, particularly because the top is glorious. It's not like I said, it's not fresh citrus. It's like marmalade-y, non-gourmand citrus, if if you can wrap your head around that. I also smell, I think I talked about the smoky aspect of it. There's something almost flinty and irony in it. Iron, I like iron, like the metal, or like lead. If you've ever been fishing, the metal smells a particular way. But the whole thing, even though it's creamy, it's also very juicy. It's almost like a creamsicle, orange popsicle, but on amber. Very weird. The whole thing is weirdly sounding, but very beautiful smell. It's gorgeous. Katie from Chicago, Senstar, tell us where you're logging in from, please, just to get a map of you in my brain. There are spicy aspects to this. There's a slight amount of clove in there just to zing it up. At times, I think I smell ginger flower, but that's such a very abstract notion that I wouldn't. Mississippi. There are slight powdery aspects and facets to this. It's a very, very, very hard to explain fragrance, but the truth is, if you put it on, it's just a very beautiful orangey, creamy amber. And that's basically what you need to know about it. Definitely worth the price. Definitely worth blind buying, in my opinion. There was a discussion on Mr. Cologne's Instagram page. I don't end up there too often because I'm not very social on social. Even though I produce a lot of content, it's very seldom that I actually get to sit and discuss something, which is why you'll see that I answer with a delay. For those of you who don't know, I also maintain a very big Romanian-speaking perfumista community back home. It's about 12,000 people, which is a lot for a small country. It's larger right now than the Romanian Fragrantica. It's a lot to handle, and I have a job and I have a kid. For those of you who don't know, I am somebody's mother. So there's a lot going on. But I ended up seeing this post about blind buying, and Mr. Cologne was not recommending blind buying. I respectfully disagree. I think for those of us who can afford whatever your afford sum is, right? To each their own. But for those of us who can afford the money, the time, the excitement, and the patience, and the space, and your house, and whatever, I think there's nothing like making a blind purchase in the anticipation of opening that damn box. When it finally comes, there's nothing like it. There's nothing, absolutely nothing like it for a perfumista. So in my opinion, if you can afford it, and if you don't get very bitter in case something is not exactly what you imagined, then go for it. It's glorious. This, like I said, is about 30 bucks, 40 bucks, totally worth the money. It's a sweet, non-gourmand, orangey amber, based more on balsamics than on resins, and is glorious. Now, let's go to this. And at some point, this is kind of nostalgic. It had like 2 minutes, maybe in between phases. It had about 2 minutes when it it smelled like throat lozenges. Either because I'm eating lozenges with stuff, like any of these in them, or because this, through some turn of fate, has a few seconds of sitting in a very interesting way. But it was like slightly eucalyptusy, slightly orangey, slightly medicinal, herby, the rucola kind of stuff for like about 2 minutes, which is not bad at all. It was just an interesting development. Now it's settled and it's just glorious. Glorious. My humble opinion. And if you don't like it, it's very easy to exchange it, whatever. But yeah, I'm all for blind buying. Hate paying for vials and discovery sets. That too, yeah. Sometimes it's kind of weird, right? I'm like, what? Why? I mean, I like to support perfumers, and I do buy I do buy a lot of vials. If they offer them, I always pay for shipping at least, because I think it's important to support a business, and that's how you support it, not by asking for free stuff, but by purchasing from small artisans. But yeah, if I see a vial is $20 and a partial bottle is 27, not a hard pick. Anyway, if you go online, you'll see that a lot of people compare this to this. Now, I like Hormone. Kind of like Rochas is... No, actually, I can't compare the two. Hormone is today's probably easiest to wear house. Everything they make is compact, elegant, simple, easy to use, easy to understand, easy to wear, and kind of stands on its own. It's not necessarily one of those, Jo Malone that needs to be combined or other things. So this is one of the bottles that I have from them. They are comparable. I think the Tolu execution is similar in that it's liquidy, it's compact, it's floral, and it's neutral. Doesn't go masculine, feminine. I don't believe in that anyway, to begin with. But for those of you who do, just as a reference point, I think the execution of Tolu in both is extremely neutral. There are other similarities. The spicy notes in both are kind of the same. Yes, they're both sprays. The tonka in both is the same, even though on application the Tolu the Tolu is the Tolu, the fragrance, is slightly more bitter spicy. I think this has something green, almost like tomato leaf or fig leaf, whereas this has something green more like sage or marjoram, probably sage or willow bark in that area. There's rose in both. There's some benzoin in both. I think this is slightly more sharp. This is definitely rounder, more enveloping, more close. This has piney terpenic notes on application. After half an hour, almost an hour of applying both, the Rochas is now slightly more delicate, more flowery, whereas this is still resiny and propolisy. So if I were to compare them, this is the Rochas is more feminine than this. This is sharper, like I said, it has more terpenic notes on application. After they settle, both of them are very ambery, resiny, balsamic, sweet, non-gourmand, neroli-ish, tonka-ish fragrances. If this is 200 and this is 40, I would go with this one, even though they're not interchangeable. Let's just put it out there. They're not. I do have a few pairs of fragrances that are interchangeable in my book. So much so that if you wear them separately, you probably have a hard time discerning which one is which. In this case, it's not like that. They are different enough. But value-wise, depending on your pocket. So this is what we had for today. How unisex is the Rochas? I don't know. It's as unisex as l'artisan parfumeur. It could be in between Bigard de Séville, what is it called? Noir Exquis and the Séville Lobe. It's, it's fragrance. It's as unisex as you want to do it. I know, I'm obsessed with L'Artisan. It's one of my favorite houses. It's slightly sweeter than Séville Lobe, but it's also better blended in my opinion. And you know what I realized? I didn't tell you who made this. This was made by Maestro Jaques Cavallier. Now, Cavallier is known to have made stuff that is beautiful and easy to wear. He made Odyssey, both. He made Poème. He made Opium pour Homme. He made Alchimie de Rochas, which is a beauty. He made Pacha de Cartier. He made Kingdom from Alexander McQueen, which was interesting. He made Cinema. He made Ultraviolet. He made... What didn't he make, this dude? So they might not... He made M7, the one that was launched with the penis outside of somebody's pants. That was a beautiful, man, but still. Yeah, I gave away Séville Lobe as well because it felt like it had too many prickly points that were not easy to wear to the nose. Cavallier made Nu. He made Subtil from Ferragamo, which is another cheapie that I think is very... yes, I like his work. I can't wear them all, but I like Cavallier's work. And I think there are very few people who don't like his work. His work is likable. His work is not necessarily the most original or particular, but everything he makes is very well composed. There's an easiness to stuff. It makes sense when you smell it. It's like classics. Everything is like an instant classic kind of thing, which now makes me think of I think Louis Vuitton hired him for the latest collection. He did a lot for Bulgari. Aqua Amara, which is everybody says it's masculine, but I've been wearing it since the beginning. Alongside Aqua Divina, I think they're fantastic juices. Cheapie juices too. He has a hand. I like the dude. It is what it is. So Jaques Cavallier made this. If you like his other work, give this a chance. Give it a nose. Give it a time of day. I don't know. And yeah, that's about it. 2 small things. One is if you like Sultan Pasha's work, today is the last day for a very, very, very generous $500 worth draw that he offered for my latest review of his latest fragrance, Jiraiya, which is an animalic taif that I'm obsessed with. And I have it right here. I am obsessed with it. Go to Sa Fleur Bon. I think today the draw closes. So if you want a chance to win that, do go. Give it I wrote a poem that can be read backwards, which I'm very proud of. Hey, I felt inspired, okay? It was that kind of article. So go and register to participate in the draw. The second announcement I want to make before my hour expires, because again, I've been talking a lot today, is this. I am packing the traveling box. Those of you who registered to be part of the group that is participating in the traveling box, please send me your addresses so I can create the plan for the next few months. It's going to travel throughout the world. So, yeah. So that's it, folks. If you like this kind of nerdy, deep, and long reviews on fragrance and perfumery, make sure to stick around, like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. I'm started posting everything on A Nose Knows, the Facebook page, so I have it all together because it's all over the place, and I create a lot of materials for other people's channels. If you're in New York in November 2nd, come to the Scent Explore event. I was invited as an expert perfumista on a panel where I'm going to be rubbing elbows with all the big guys that I have nothing to do with, like the Jeremys and the Demi and, Cubano and the big guys and the Brooklyn Fragrance Lover. And, it's not my place to be there, but I'm like, why not? So they're flying me out to be on a panel to discuss what I think is the state of perfumery today. And this is supposed to be the first edition of our version, the American version of perfumery trade show. So, we'll see what happens. If you're around, come visit. I think, yeah. So yeah, that's it. I will leave you here. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Keep it kind, but keep it real, folks. Yeah. And that was it for today. It is what it is. There's room for everybody under the sun. To each their own, and each of us have their own direction. Nobody does what I do, and I will never do what they do. So, to each their own.